Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old, and today I'm talking about the new album from mh-Ziq, or micro-Ziq as I typically pronounce it, Challenge Me Foolish. Finally. I think people have been looking forward to this one. micro-Ziq, Mike Paradinas. For those of you who don't know who this guy is, I'm going to give you a few reasons why you should care about him. First of all, he is good friends with Aphex Twin. He got his start on the Reflex label initially, and the two of them have even released an album together under the name Mike and Rich, Expert Knob Twiddlers, which I reviewed a while back when that got this CD reissue right here. Second of all, he is the founder and owner of the Planet Mew label, who has hosted the likes of Venetian Snares, Jalen, Jaga, Luke Vibert, Itel Tech, RP Boo, among many, many others. And third of all, and most importantly, I freaking love the guy's music. Dude is one of the unspoken legends in electronic music, and seriously deserves so much more credit and exposure than he currently gets. Some people have been asking for a discography review of this guy, and while he's admittedly not on my current schedule for the coming months, he is one I'll definitely have to get around to covering in detail at some point, because there's no shortage of material there. But in the meantime, for those of you who need a quick breakdown of my thoughts on his stuff, allow me to go down his discography so far. This album has 26 tracks, all basically done in the same style, and somehow it's really fun and engaging from start to finish. I think it's my second favorite from the guy. It's also the only one I have a CD of as of right now, though I will have to remedy that soon. This is an even better double album that has better variety and my overall favorite from the guy. Not as amazing as the first two, but still pretty great. I think most people consider this one to be his best work, and while I don't think I'm into it as much as most people, it's still really solid and definitely worth people's time. Love this one too. Not very stylistically cohesive, but still really consistently great, super underrated, I think maybe my third favorite from the guy. This one went down an awfully difficult and abstract path. It's a little hit and miss for me personally, but hey, if Go Plastic is your favorite Square Pusher album, or you love noisy and complex hardcore stuff, you will love this. This one's kinda laid out like a film soundtrack, sort of. It's pretty awesome. This one's particularly melodic and bright, and especially refreshing if you've listened to these in chronological order. Maybe not the best melodic IDM album ever, but certainly really solid overall. Compilation of 2 EPs, it's a pretty nice companion to Chewed Corners. Leftovers from the Lunatic Harness days, plenty of good stuff here, but nothing that super stuck out to me as amazing, and definitely felt like an outtakes collection. And this is a lost album from the In Pine Effect days. Kinda same deal as the previous release, feels a little scattershot, not the most memorable, but again, some good stuff here. Which brings us to here. So going into this latest album, I knew that like his last 2 releases from 2016, this was also a lost album, more unreleased material from his old days rather than actual new material for 2018. Which at once was a little disappointing, but on the other hand, it's also apparently from his Royal Astronomy days, and Royal Astronomy is one of my favorite releases from the guy, so that's gotta be something interesting at least. On top of that, this definitely had much more build-up than those last 2 lost albums, which I remember just kinda dropped out of nowhere when they came out. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but there was definitely more rollout on this one. He's been teasing this one for months. I figure if he's basically treating this as a mainline album, it's gotta be something good, so what do we get with Challenge Me Foolish? Well, I'll first have to get out of the way that it's not better than Royal Astronomy, and the comparison is right there. Challenge Me Foolish is very clearly taken from the same sessions as that album. From an individual track perspective, Royal Astronomy just had me much more consistently invested. Challenge Me Foolish is basically the other tracks that weren't quite good enough to make that album, as far as I can tell. Not to say this album has nothing to offer, though. It's certainly more cohesive and comes together better as a whole. And there aren't any bad tracks on here either. I just like Royal Astronomy more because it was more consistent quality-wise, and this is more consistent sonically, but yeah, whatever. The Challenge Me Foolish is still a good album. So first of all, let's talk about the fact that 5 tracks on this album feature a singer by the name of Kazumi. She was also on Royal Astronomy. Incidentally, on the 2 most popular tracks, The Fear and Goodbye Goodbye, her voice isn't the world's most distinctive, but she is definitely a welcome presence both there and here. There were 2 tracks with her on this album that in particular stuck out to me as standouts. The track Lexicon was one of them. It was basically a more upbeat remix of Goodbye Goodbye, and while I probably prefer the original, this one definitely has its own separate appeal. It's some good fun. I also really liked Sad Inlay. Maybe would have liked it a little more if her vocals weren't pitched up, but the cheesy orchestra and drum and bass break beats ended up winning me over on that one. But my favorite track with Kazumi on this album has to be Durian. Just all these bright and sparkly descending vibraphone-tinged melodies working up against her vocals makes for one of the biggest highlights from this thing. I know I said there were 2 highlights with her, I guess it's 3. As for the other 2 tracks with her feature, I found the title track to be a little uneventful but enjoyable enough. And the closer, Do-Da-Do, occasionally catches me off guard. I mean, it's a cutesy and sweet little thing that I guess fits the overall atmosphere of the album, but her voice seems to be, you know, a particularly high-quality recording, so it sounds like she's singing 2 inches from my face. And it's pitched up again, too. Just keeps weirding me out a little there. Don't know if that would be the track I'd pick to close out the album either, but whatever. Anyways, let's talk about the rest of the tracks on this thing. You got some stuff which has that cheesy fake orchestra, stuff like Undone, Robin Hood, Gate, and Perfame. Though, even though it is cheesy and fake sounding, I think it's kind of charming in its own way. Heck, on this album, I think it's even jokier than on Royal Astronomy. Sometimes it feels like I'm playing that old Mind Maze game that came with Microsoft and Carta. There's a reference that no one is going to get. But there's also other tracks on here that feel rather jokey as well. Perhaps sounds like it's taking someone's vaguely musical moaning and then editing it into barbershop harmonies. And Peak Friends sounds like some kind of 60s synth harpsichord playing some Tin Pan Alley melodies or something, with occasional other synths for accompaniment. I mean, we're not quite on expert knob twiddlers level of ridiculous here, but I feel like this is aiming somewhere in that general area. There are other regular electronic heavy tracks on here too, though. The lead single and opener from this album, Inclement? It sounds like a bouncy and lighthearted take on an artificial intelligence style track. Bassbins is a hard-hitting breakbeat track, kind of like the motorbike track from Royal Astronomy, but with more melodies. That was one of the biggest highlights from this thing. Ceiling is an abrasive breakcore track with a nice little floaty melody draped on top. And Playbox is a much slower moving track, but no less percussive, almost mathematical in its approach. The melodies here are even probably more atonal than anywhere else on the album. So yeah, bit of a mixed bag here to say the least. It's kinda hard for me to say how I feel on Challenging Me Foolish as a whole. I mean, the entire thing does have a playful atmosphere to it that wasn't quite as present on Royal Astronomy. That album had some silly moments, but I still feel like I could take that one more seriously in spite of all its cheesiness. This one, not so much. But it still never quite goes to the expert knob twiddler's extreme of jokiness that I know I'm definitely not supposed to take this seriously. I mean, the album's definitely better when I don't take it that seriously, but it took me a couple of listens for me to realize that might have been on purpose. But whatever. As for recommendation, I would definitely recommend checking this out at some point. There's plenty of fun to be had, especially if you've been a fan of the guy for a while. If you're in the mood for like an IDM album that's more playful, just kind of cheerful, melodic, not that serious, then maybe this is worth a shot. Though if you've never listened to anything by Mike Paradinas before, I personally wouldn't really recommend starting here. I would start with either Tango Invective or Bluff Limbo. Those are much better showcases of what this dude's capable of than this is. In fact, I'd also recommend checking out Royal Astronomy before this one as well, since this is kind of a glorified outtakes collection for that album. I mean, a good outtakes collection, a far better assembled one than his previous two from 2016, but an outtakes collection all the same. And if you don't like Royal Astronomy, don't even bother, you won't like this either. But I think Royal Astronomy is one of his best albums, so I enjoyed this. I'll still be waiting for Paradinas to put together a new album with new material. Haven't gotten a proper one of those since Chewed Corners in 2013, and I'd love to see what else he can come up with nowadays, but hey, even if it's taken from the old archives, I feel like the world could always use a little more Paradinas. and this was a fair bit of fun. I'm overall feeling a 7.5 out of 10. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts, so leave the comments in the commenting down there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.